On this week's episode, I'm going to spend the entire time talking about KDE Plasma.
No.
When I say I'm going to spend it, I mean me. Ryan and Jill will probably not have any time to talk on this episode, just so you know. Welcome to episode 361 of Destination Linux, your favorite video podcast. My name is Michael.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Ryan.
And that's all they're going to be able to say on this show. We're also going to cover Google and Nvidia team up to give us open source Skynet. Aren't you just super excited about that? Now let's get this show on the road toward Destination Linux.
So today in our community feedback, I've put together a collection of comments. So sometimes we receive these very small comments that them in themselves really wouldn't make necessarily a whole topic for community feedback, but together, we'll see what happens. And
I like this idea. It's kind of like even if you have something small to send, you can know that it will still get on the show with a bunch of other stuff like this. We can have like this roundup of sorts.
Right. I want everyone's voice to be heard, except the one person who called us a bunch of names and stuff. That person, I'm not going to let them get heard too much, but the rest
I
of
don't even know who you're talking about.
Get to go. You haven't seen that email.
Completely blacked it out. Doesn't matter.
That's a fun one.
Didn't happen.
All right. So our first email comes from Tony, who wants us to know, my favorite color of Crocs is green. Just use them at the beach. Now, for those of you who are not OG listeners to the show, you may not get the reference. If you're laughing right now and do get the reference, you get the official Destination Linux Geek badge, which you can wear that with a lot of pride.
Yes, and that doesn't technically exist, but it could. You never know.
Could. We'll let you print it out on your own paper.
You can make it exist.
Pin it to your own shirt. All right, so Tony, going back to the Crocs discussion, Crocs are an embarrassment to the world. We can all agree on this. However, this is an acceptable usage of Crocs at the beach. Crocs can be used at the beach because they're made of plastic, and green is the best color because it matches my logo. So you are free, Tony, to go about your business uninterrupted. We will not make fun of you further on that.
I mean, I never made fun of him in the first place. You're the whole anti, except for the fact that I also say that the I can't remember what the knockoff idea is.
Idiocracy, right?
No, not the movie. Not the movie.
Knockoff.
I have a knockoff that's something B. I don't remember.
Something like that.
No, it's something B. It's something B.
Remember the name.
Like
someone
like,
send us a comment with just the name of the off-brand shoe.
Just tell us what I bought and remind me. But basically, I use it for the going to the pool or going to the beach or something like that. So I don't want to get my actual shoes in dirty with water or sand or whatever. And that, I agree, is an acceptable thing. If I see someone wearing Crocs like just normal, it does kind of make me laugh, especially if they're wearing socks and wearing the Crocs.
No,
then it's just like, it's
I just want
funny.
to tell something. Gym culture has a really bad reputation, and I've been to multiple gyms. And Michael knows when we go travel.
Why are you so anti-gym? Jim is such a nice person.
It's got a bad rap because people think like, hey, if you come in there and you're overweight or whatever, people are going to look at you and make fun of you. And it's nothing like that. People encourage you. They want you to come. It's like, unless you just, I've never seen it. Maybe it happens, but gym culture gets a bad rap for things that don't exist. However, I will tell you a way that you will get made fun of at the gym. If you walk in with Crocs and socks or just Crocs or sandals, you're going to get made fun of at the gym. So just a little hint.
That's the worst kind of stuff. Like, you wouldn't go exercise in those things. Whether
people do it all the time, especially these kids, these
weird,
teenagers. They come in there with their sandals. And I'm like, if you drop a weight, which is as experienced as I am, every once in a while, weight falls the wrong way or something else, and you drop it on your foot. It's just stupid. And so, anyways, you're probably going to have a lot of people trying to drop weights on your foot if you go in there with Crocs. So just a little tip.
Hopefully not that service. That is a good tip. Well, I also think you should point out that I think that the gym thing that you're talking about is been like a myth. I think it is true that in most gyms it's a myth, but if you go to like those super hardcore places that don't have any air conditioner and just like giant fans, it might be that.
Maybe.
The only gym I've seen a lot of sandals at is the ones by the beach here where I live.
That would be fair.
Yeah,
maybe.
Tons of people are using Crocs, and they're actually coming out from surfing and going and working out.
Muscle Beach, I would think. Maybe.
Muscle Beach. That's kind of interesting because it's like those kind of like are contrary and they don't really make sense to like. Now I kind of want to see if they are wearing shoes or if they're wearing Crocs.
We're going to go to Muscle Beach when we go to scale and look.
I mean, that's way too far.
People will think we have a foot fetish because we're going to go around looking at everybody's feet, but we'll just do. Anyways,
we're going to walk up to him and go like, "What are those?"
Our second comment comes from Adam, who has a game recommendation. He says, "I was watching Ready Player One, which I love that movie, with my 6 kids. Man, dang, 6 kids!
Wow,
what a lot of kids." I didn't know you have time for watching movies based on having 6 kids. I challenged them that the first one to see a DeLorean and the first one to see a Mortal Kombat reference, I would buy each a €2 Steam game. They pooled the money together to buy a €4 game called Heave Ho. They absolutely love it, Adam.
Aww.
So what I like about this email is first, we can see Adam is raising his kids right here by making them point out amazing geek references like that and teaching them about geek culture. Also, though, he's teaching them about inflation because they had to pool their money together to buy a single game. And I think that's just really wise.
And also teaching them about accountability of being able to, get something based on some effort you're doing, but also teaching them how to manage your finances by saying you have 6 kids, but only 2 of them are going to get anything because you can do a who's first to do it.
Yeah. They learn how to work
That's a good point, Michael. Only 2 of them get something.
It's very clever.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you for sending in the I haven't checked out that game, but thank you for sending that comment. And the game looks pretty fun, but
you're talking
I haven't
about
had a chance to
the Heave Ho. But have you seen Ready Player One, the movie?
Of course. Of
course.
It's
so good.
I mean, I actually hadn't seen it until about a few months ago, but I did see it now. So
Maddie has brought culture to your life.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
The last email states, this is in reference to the whole discussion we had, which I feel like we brought the community together on this. Sometimes we bring the community together on open source projects, sometimes on major tech that's changing the world. I feel my story about Chucky, being scared of Chucky as a kid, has brought our communities together closer than ever before. They say, I'm right there with you. I went to a ventriloquist museum in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky after watching Chucky. I was totally freaked out. All the dolls were looking at me. Listen, that's not your imagination. They're evil.
They were looking at you, and you'd be thinking, are those eyes following me around the room, or is it just the lighting?
Yeah.
Well, it's both.
There's something inherently creepy about an old like porcelain doll and things. Have you guys come across those?
Yeah.
There's something instinctually that's like, I don't know. I would imagine if we could go back in time, humans probably had instincts about certain animals. The knowing that if they were, we're hunting gathering time period, and you would just see something and instantly be struck with fear. Dolls are that way. Sometime in human history, dolls attacked mankind. And we had
same thing with clowns.
Yeah, clowns attacked us too.
Same thing. So, and then you have doll clowns, and you're like, too much.
Clowns.
Yeah.
Too much.
Combination. Jill, do you have old porcelain dolls and things around your house?
No, I never cared. Yeah, even I was I wasn't. I didn't play with dolls when I was a little girl. I was into boy toys, so. But I had one dolly, so cool. but she was plastic, not porcelain.
Yeah, porcelain dolls are scary as heck.
The other doll I had though was a very rare Wonder Woman doll made by Mattel Toys.
Nice,
and she was my favorite because she was a superhero.
Nice,
yeah. That's a good.
That's awesome.
Wendy is in our patron chat, and I just want you all to know, because we're deathly afraid of Wendy, that Wendy said she had some porcelain dolls of her grandma's. So you could imagine that Wendy would be the one who's not afraid of those things.
Yeah.
Wendy has to tape up her muscles and things like that. So
not surprising. Not
surprised at all. All right. So if you want to send in your random comments to the show, if you want to send in questions about open source, if you want to tell Michael to please stop taking over the show to talk about Plasma endlessly.
If you want to tell Ryan why your favorite color of Croc is blue, feel free to do that.
Send in your comments to destinationlinux.net/comments, and we will make sure that they make it in the show, unless you're particularly mean. And that goes for you too, Wendy. We're not going to air your mean emails you send us all the time.
So stop sending them, Wendy. God.
Stop sending them, Wendy.
Are you looking for a secure open source solution for remote access and app streaming? Check out Kasm, the proud sponsors of this episode of Destination Linux. With Kasm, self-hosting is a breeze using Docker, and you can enjoy privacy and non-attritable browsing from any browser. So you can do this without a VPN. You don't need one. You can do this without installing anything because you can just do it right in any browser. Host it on your Raspberry Pi, DigitalOcean Droplet, Linode, or your home server. And you can access your apps hassle-free anytime, anywhere. Visit destinationlinux.net/Kasm. That's destinationlinux.net/KASM to empower your digital workspace. And Kasm, it basically lets you unleash the possibilities of secure, accessible computing wherever you are. If you're a business and you need to stream apps to clients or provide virtual workspaces to your employees, Kasm offers hosting services with persistent profiles, file shares, single sign-on support, SSH key management, custom images, and so much more. So check them out by going to destinationlinux.net/Kasm, and you can also get a coupon. And if you want to get more information about Kasm, you can check out the link, like I said, but you can also check out the show notes. We have a video where we go into kind of in depth about our testing or our review of Kasm. We'll have that in the show notes. But again, go to destinationlinux.net/Kasm to check it out.
And Michael and I collaborated behind the scenes on this video.
I did mostly everything.
I collaborated with Mike. Why did you have to bring that up, Michael? I was showing our partnership.
Ryan and I collaborated together to make this video.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. And it was really fun testing Kasm out, though.
It was fun. It was very fun.
And I was putting secret files up for Michael to find and things like that. And
it's true.
My artwork.
It was glorious artwork.
Thank you.
If you're like a 4-year-old. But
thank you, Michael. That's an upgrade because last time you said it was like a 3-year-old. So I feel like I'm getting better.
Yeah, you're growing. You're growing up. You're growing up so fast these days.
Thanks. This week, we're going to be covering the awesomeness of Plasma 6. And of course, because if you didn't know, Michael is the biggest fanboy of KDE on the planet. So when I was gathering feedback for the show this week, I want to paint an image for you guys. This really happened. I was like, hey, Jill, Michael, we need something really important to talk about during the show. And Jill started to talk, and Michael's just in the background jumping up and down. He's like, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Imagine a little kid in like a dodgeball game where they're trying to pick teams. And I was like,
that right there is exactly what I saw. And I was like, so I called on him after a few minutes, and he's like gathering his breath, and he finally was so excited he got picked, and he's like, Plasma 6. And I was like, okay, Michael, we'll let you have it. This one episode is for you, Plasma 6. But before we get into our overview, Michael, you need to give them some highlights. You can't just sit there and gush the entire time. So you got to give them a little bit of an overview of like what to look forward to in Plasma 6, and then you can start your gushing.
Okay. Yeah. I will give highlights and overviews and all that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
All right.
But in addition to that, I will start off with a story about my fandom of KDE Plasma.
Yay.
So, KDE Plasma, as you may have guessed, is my daily driver because it is so powerful, customizable, and yet somehow at the same time, it's still surprisingly lightweight. I switched to KDE Plasma around early 2014. So obviously, the timing of this release is so that KDE can celebrate with me my 10th anniversary of using KDE Plasma. So KDE Plasma 6 has just come out, and I am super excited. And let's talk about the highlights. So the user experience improvements are everywhere. Now, the first thing is easily the overview. It is super cool. They merged the desktop grid and the overview / the present windows feature into a new all-in-one, state-of-the-art type of flow. So you can switch between them at certain shortcuts, or you can do gestures. So if you want to do 4 fingers up and down, you can activate the overview, and you get access to your virtual desktops, your applications, and your search, everything, all right there. You can also still access the desktop grid or the overview directly if you want to, but the fact that they have this whole merge thing, super cool. One of my favorite things, and I am not ashamed to admit that I played with it with the gesture thing on the touchpad, like up and down, like just playing with it, activating it for no reason at all. Did it a lot.
Nice.
Like a little child.
Yep, did it a lot. Totally okay with that. Yeah. Also, they have custom sort ordering for KRunner search results, which is very nice.
Let's tell people about KRunner, because I still feel like people don't know what KRunner is.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. So KRunner is fantastic. It's an app launcher, but that's technically what it's called. But it's not a really good name because everybody sees like the start menus and stuff like that as app launchers. So it's a weird term, but that's technically its name. So what KRunner does is effectively allow you to do anything you want, whether you want to open your apps from just activating a keyboard shortcut and then start typing. You can then type it. You can do that by hitting the super key as well and then type it there. But you can also do many other things. You can do searches for your documents. You can do calculations based on like doing number calculations. You can do conversions of pounds to kilograms and stuff like that. You can do all sorts of stuff. And also you could do pounds to US dollars. See what I did there with the puns of words.
You know what I like about it though is if you're on your desktop, you just start typing, KRunner will come up. So you don't have to like click a button. You don't have to hit a hotkey. If you're on KDE's desktop.
But for the most people, they're not just sitting on their desktop. They're going to have something open. So I still like the fact that you can just hit. That's
because you don't do multiple workspaces.
I do multiple workspaces. I do multiple monitors.
You would have free workspaces.
I have so much stuff everywhere because I am productive, Ryan. You don't know what that means and what that feels like.
I don't know what your version of productivity is. That's true.
Well, I mean, my productive system is to have everything everywhere scattered and be
wait for Ryan to yell at him to do it.
No, I don't need you to yell at me. Just sortly nudge. Just nudge.
Push.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, KRunner is awesome. You can do that, but it basically allows you to do anything you want in not anything, but a lot of stuff. And there's a section where you can activate new features. You can get new stuff from the KDE store and enhance KRunner even more. And it can do so many things. It's hard to describe like how useful it is because once you start using it, you're going to keep using it.
Of KDE, but I think it's one of the least talked about features that's been there forever.
Oh yeah,
and I think the first time I may have come across it was Michael just started typing something. I'm like, whoa, you could do that. I think when he was at my house one time, and so I didn't even know it existed for a long time. But KRunner is amazing. So if you're going to use KDE, if you're going to try Plasma, definitely check out KRunner because it's one of the best. One of the better features for sure.
Yeah, the search is unparalleled. With any application out there, it's one of the best.
Yeah, it's also really fast and everything. It's pretty cool. Also, there's more stuff to talk about with KDE Plasma 6, and that is panel changes and visual improvements to the panels. Now, the panels, I didn't know how I was going to feel about this. So they talked about floating panels, and I saw the screenshots, and I was like, okay, sure. But seeing screenshots and using it is different. I decided to keep the panels as the floating as they are default, and I just used it as a regular, everyday kind of usage. And I noticed something that was really nice. When you maximized your window, it also turned off the floating and it made it maximize against on the panel. Like so, it basically makes it all the content of the screen is being used. Because if it just did the floating panel at all times, that would kind of irritate me to see like a little bit of the wallpaper and then nothing else.
Yeah.
So I like how they did that. So I actually like the panel, and if you don't, that's okay too. But I like the floating panel.
Because of KDE, if you don't like it, you can change it probably.
Yes.
That's how KDE is. I left it default too, Michael, which I know you'll find surprising.
That is
in my
crazy.
Yeah.
No way. You left yours default?
Yeah.
Wow.
I decided
for those who are
changes.
For those who are new to the show, that's all he ever does.
Yeah. Use it like God made it.
When I went to his house the first time and I used his actual setup, I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because he was also using XFCE at the time, and XFCE default, it's
gotten better, but back then
it was pretty rough. It has gotten a lot better, but back then, this was like years ago, 5 years ago, something like that.
God, we've known each other that long? What is wrong with us?
Way too long. We've known each other way too long. And
is that a teddy bear behind you with Captain America shields on it, by the way? I just noticed for those watching the video version, this new thing in the background. Is that a teddy bear with Captain America shield ears?
First of all,
ears.
I went to Disney World, and because I'm a silly person, I decided to get the ears too. And I got the Captain America ears because most of them are not really something I would do. But I thought that was funny.
So your giant
no, that's not a teddy bear.
Butt was walking around Disney World with Mickey Mouse ears.
Yes, I was.
Okay, that's
and also I was one of the 0.02% of guys wearing anything like that. I saw one person walk around the corner of the guy with wearing it. I was like, "There's another one."
You take the road less traveled, Michael. Good job.
Exactly.
All right, back.
But also, it's not a teddy bear; it's a Rocket League ball, bro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you just put the ears on the ball.
top of
it actually fit perfectly. So I was like, "Where am I going to put this?" Like, Rocket League ball, perfect.
That's cute. All right, continue.
Okay,
continue, Michael.
Thank you for your permission. They also made some big changes to the organization of the settings to make it easier and more useful. And I do think that they have made it's funny because when I first started using the changes, I thought, oh no, I got to learn this again because I was so used to it for the years and years that I've been using it. I know where everything was. Now that's not true. But then I started digging and okay, yes, that's better. Having the input devices much higher up on the list and everything that you're going to interact with the
wallpaper section.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Come on. Finally.
And they have everything that's theme related all connected into one tier.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So well done there. And they've also different types of changes to defaults, which is really, really cool. And I like these things because default is king, as I like to say. People don't want to change stuff if they, like, for example, Ryan, he will just suffer through whatever terrible default you give him. But it's better for most people to have good defaults so that they don't have to change.
Yeah. Like there's more types of default apps that can be chosen, for example. And this one actually is important for me because sometimes the apps that it chooses to open notes or even your browser or whatever by default. I want to be able to change all of that stuff. And sometimes I'm switching stuff and want to change it again to something else. And I want that to be easy. And they've done that. Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, the default apps thing is very useful to have more types because it used to be just, I think, like 3. It's just like editor, email, and browser. Now you have more. So always happy to see that.
More is good. And
more
Wayland
is good, especially in the KDE world. Give me more.
Yes.
Wayland improvements is a big deal because we talked about Wayland becoming kind of the default now. And, KDE's got to step up here some more. And they did. You got color management support for sRGB applications on Wayland.
Also, Wayland is now the default setting when you first start using the system. Yep. So you get it automatically. You don't have to switch in it because you used to just have to turn it on. Now you don't have to. But the next one, that is awesome.
What is the next one, Michael?
That is high dynamic range support or HDR support. So cool.
Finally.
Finally. Yes. So now I can really enjoy my high refresh 200 to 250 refresh monitors.
In fact, I got this question not too long ago someone was asking me, is there any desktop environment out there that supports HDR well? And I was like, well, you got me on the well part. There's some that support it. But not
also,
well.
Windows doesn't do it well either.
Yeah.
So. No. So this is really a huge improvement, and I imagine a ton of work for the team. So really appreciate them putting it in there. But even more important is the desktop cube effect returns.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I can't believe I forgot about the cube. Yeah. The desktop cube is back, people. And for those who don't know what it is, we're going to display a video showing you what it is. Yeah. But it's a way to transition between your desktops, your virtual desktops, to other desktops where you're working on different things, where you have your browser open or your email open. You can switch back and forth. And you might be thinking, isn't this kind of pointless and there's no real reason to do this? And you're right, but also stop talking.
Yeah.
Like, this is important. Desktop cube is important.
You're amazing hacker when your computer does the little 3D flip for the screen. Like, so I have it set up here, utilizing Zorin OS, and I love the cube. Like, it surprises me sometimes because I forget when I'm working on other machines and I'll go to flip something and it does the little thing and I get a little giddy. I'm not going to lie. Like, I love the little 3D cube effect to this day. It still impresses me.
So one of the reasons it's so important to us Linux users, because back in the day, like early 2000s, late 90s, we had the desktop cube effect, and that was one of the things we could hold over Windows users. We had a cool desktop cube effect on Linux.
Eat that, Windows. Didn't Windows try to copy that at some point in like Millennium version?
And they gave up. It quit very quickly.
Yes.
But also, it's funny because you were talking about how you use it to show off how it's cool.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I use it. Anytime I was ever like with my laptop and I go to someone's house and they're like, oh, you're using Linux. What is this? Like, well, check out what this can do. And I just make this thing. And it really has no actual value in terms of productivity.
Like nothing.
No. Yeah. But it's cool.
Awesome.
And I'm happy it's back.
That's awesome. It's awesome. It's the opposite of Crocs. Now you have, when rebooting, ability to opt out of installing a downloaded offline update. So that happens when you go to reboot and it's like, oh, we need to update, and you're forced to kind of update. Now you can kind of opt out.
So I like this.
Opt out.
I like the fact that they're giving you the option to not have it do that. But I also like the fact that it does that, because some people are thinking like, I like having my updates anytime while I'm because that's a thing that people have said, that you can just update your system and not worry about it. But that's kind of true and kind of not true, because there are some random use cases where people will update their systems multiple times and not reboot their computer over the course of weeks or even months. They just leave it on at all times. And if you don't reboot at some point, it can't do the full update. So this is kind of like trying to stop that from being the norm. And I don't know how many people do that, because I don't update hardly ever. But it's good that there's an option that you can, if you are not bothered by that.
Yeah. And you got color blindness correction filters, support for sound themes, simultaneous password, fingerprint, smart card, auth on lock screen. I know a lot of people get frustrated with their laptops on Linux because they can't utilize that stuff. Their smart
absolutely.
cards,
I actually,
readers,
when I got a laptop that has a fingerprint reader. When I first got that, it infuriated me. It still kind of does. To be fair, it still kind of does, because they put the fingerprint reader where the right control key is, and there is no right control. And I think that is incredibly stupid, because the right control is so much more useful because it is right next to the arrow keys.
Yeah. Plus, how do you get out of VirtualBox when it captures your mouse? And
exactly.
You need your right control.
You have to change the default. Exactly. That's true. I forgot about that being the default. So it's ridiculous. But then also I started using the fingerprint scanner to log into my computer rather than doing the password stuff. It's pretty nice, actually.
Yeah. Biometrics are definitely a convenience when implemented correctly.
Yes, and then it's all locally stored on your computer. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Optional automatic background crash reporting, which I love. Like, I like the idea that I can send information automatically without having to think about it if something crashed and is not working, and that helps the developers be able to debug and find out what's going on. So you have optional. It's optional. You don't have to. Keep that in mind. But I love that type of feature there. And here's what kills me. You talk about all these features. And by the way, we covered like 35% of the changes because there's so many bug fixes and other
don't worry. We're going to get to them, people.
No, Mike, but we're not.
We're going to get to them, people.
We're going to run out of time.
I don't think so. I will make time.
So we've only gotten to like 35%. But Nate Graham is already discussing the 6.1 point release. Like, they just released this, and he's already talking about 6.1 and how the updates and improvements that we're seeing here are really groundwork laying improvements. So this is the groundwork for a lot of new stuff that's going to be coming in the future. And also, it shows their work never stops. And even if you're not a KDE user, you got to love and respect the drive that team has to be like, hey, we just did all of this cool stuff. Great. Let's start over and do it all over again and come up with more cool stuff. So I just think it's really awesome that what they've accomplished, and also amazing that we have this open source community going out there and group of people working on stuff, making it so awesome for us to use there. So
I completely agree.
Thanks to them.
I completely agree. KDE as a community is awesome. They make so much good stuff. In addition to Plasma, Plasma is fantastic. It's my favorite DE, but they also make other stuff. They make applications, and a lot of them.
Yeah,
and they are not all of them, but most of them are fantastic, and I use them.
And they all start with a K. If you're wondering if it's made by KDE, it starts with a K.
They do not all start with a K.
Not all of them.
Because Dolphin does not have a K in it at
You're
all.
not pronouncing it right. It's Godolphin.
That'd be funny. They should just rename everything, and it's like, no, this is a silent K. Like, so how night is a silent K. They're like, this is a silent K. Just skip that part. But sometimes
all right, let's
they
get
do
into our experience, Michael, because we talked about all the cool features, but
I don't know if you could hold on, Ryan. I don't know if you could see this, but I wanted to people who are listening to audio, you're missing out because for people who are watching the video, while you were talking about the new stuff coming with 6.1, I don't know if you could tell, but you could maybe see me look like I'm super excited to get ready to talk, and I was like, yes, let's do this, yes.
Getting a little giddy there.
I was
like Disney World.
I didn't even realize I was doing it until after I did it. I was like, wait, but you can see me right here.
Yeah, it's fun to be a fanboy. It's fun.
It's
fun to geek out on stuff. So let's talk about our experience with Plasma 6 because we played with it this week. So we talked about all the features. That's really cool. Michael, for time purposes, we've set a hard cutoff point for gloating, gushing, and complimenting. So you have 5 minutes or less, and your mic gets shut off after that. So, Michael, what was your experience?
I do not agree to these terms.
Using Plasma 6. You've accepted the terms by continuing to use this service.
I do not agree to the EULA. I know, absolutely not. But I'm a fan. So I'm already a fan of KDE Plasma. Right. And if you're a long time listener to the show, you know that.
Yeah.
But Plasma 6, I had high hopes for. I had hopes that Plasma 6 is going to make some changes to the UI, make some changes to the experience, the overall polish, and bring out an experience that is modern and still is unique and still has a lot of cool elements and all that sort of stuff. And I had very high hopes for it. And I'm happy to say that they were successful in meeting those hopes. Now, of course, not everything is perfect to my preferences because that's impossible. And also the fact that KDE makes it designed in a way that you can customize it and do things to your preferences is why I use KDE. So it really doesn't matter exactly if every single thing by default is set to my preferences, but they are doing a lot of stuff for defaults to the overall beginner user.
Double click.
I think that is important and I love it. So for those who don't know, I have a career in a lot of things. They all kind of mesh together. So web design, graphic design, marketing, branding, these kind of things are all similar. So I also did UX design and that's user experience design. And it's something that makes me think about stuff in a different way. Because when I suggest things as a default, I'm not talking about what I think should be done for me, but for what it should be done for other people who are beginners. And for a long time, to having double click by default, and what that means is single click for a long time was the default to activate applications and open things on your folder in your desktop. And that would become a problem for people because they would click it multiple times and have multiple things open, or click multiple things as they're selecting and have all these things open. And it was just confusing. So they changed that in Plasma 6. And when it actually changed, I had someone from KDE send me a private message and say, hey, check out this like some pull request or this merge request thing. And it was like, oh,
finally.
So it was just funny because it was funny to me because not only is it something I wanted to happen because I think it's good for Plasma, and I think it's good for Linux, and I think it's good overall for the user. It's also funny that when it did happen, somebody from KDE specifically contacted me to let me know it was happening.
You're like, we finally did this for you. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, like, can you stop now, Michael? Yes, I will. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Also, there's a lot of cool stuff. And I think that the new style is nice. The floating panels is nice. I do think that the darker feel of the panels looks much, much better than the brighter feel. Because when I switched it to dark theme, it was like, whoa, this looks so much better. But there is the KDE Twilight or the Breeze Twilight theme. So if you want to have a merge of those, you could switch to that. So that is an option.
All right, Joe, cut off his mic.
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Cut off his mic, Joe. Cut it.
Also... I do actually, we'll get to it later. There are some, it's not all positive. There are some negative things that I ran into. So we'll get to those later. But I wanted to do the upfront thing and say like, hey,
all right, Jill,
I'm a huge fan.
Did you think
and Ryan, stop interrupting. It's rude. It's rude to interrupt people. Okay, Jill. It's rude to interrupt people. You gotta
just let Michael go. He's gotta get it out.
Cut him. All right, Michael, why don't you add on to some of the things we're about to add to it?
I'm not done. I have at least 17 more minutes.
Okay, 17 more. By the way, We have one of our patrons mention something I think is really important. Fun fact, KWin does indeed do HDR objectively better than Windows. Windows uses the wrong transfer function for sRGB content, which means black levels are wrong for non-HDR stuff. Dark colors are shown too bright. It's the most common complaint about Windows HDR and somehow still not fixed. Really interesting information there. Thank you for adding that additional
That is
detail.
very cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it shows you how important it is for KDE to have implemented.
And it shows you how awesome KDE is to do it right. Boom.
Boom. So
Boom.
I can't add anything to what Michael had because you covered everything in there. But
no, I didn't. I covered maybe 40% of what I wanted to cover because there is so much to cover. But I understand that this you're not as into it as I am. I get it. That's fine.
You know, let's give some more time. No, I really enjoyed KDE. Like
let go of the micro. I don't think I can do that. Not on this
Plasma
topic,
6 is, I think, a lot of the things that a lot of people over time have complained about or wish were changed. The settings, I think, is one of the big ones where it's great to have all of these settings. And I understand the difficulty of this for the team because the amount of code. I mean, look at GNOME. They pull everything, every feature, even useful ones, to make it easier to write their desktop environment. Whereas KDE adds everything you could possibly imagine in and makes it the most complex thing from a coding standpoint, I would imagine, out there. And keeps adding new features and new ways for you to change things and new ways for you to customize it constantly. So this code is a beast. So for them to go in and rearrange all of the settings and recategorize them and be thinking about the user experience with that, I know takes a ton of work, a ton of probably meetings and discussion and arguments of why this thing should go here, why it shouldn't go there. It's not like Linux people aren't very opinionated because, we're kind of known for that. So the fact they were able to pull it off and create, in my opinion, a much better organized settings system for you to go into, I think is great. I love the floating panels. I love all of the changes that they did. I love the separate wallpaper section. The one thing I will say that I think GNOME has a better experience with that I think KDE could improve on a lot is if you're looking at multiple workspaces, the ability to hit the meta key and have the very large dash come up and then have your workspaces right there at the top where I can just move applications to it very easily and simply, I think is a much superior workflow and menu system than the traditional Windows-like menu system. Now, KDE has a dash option. You can right-click and set that, but I think it's kind of crap comparatively to GNOME. Like, it's not very good. And maybe Michael will disagree with me on this, but I just don't think
first of all,
it doesn't look good.
First of all, is it crap with a K?
Yes, of course. Correct.
Just checking. Yeah.
And
just
no offense to whoever designed it. I know what you're trying to do, and I can see it's very sophisticated. It doesn't work for me as a UI standpoint.
I didn't use it in Plasma 6, so I don't know if it has been changed significantly, but I can say that the dashboard version of the menu was the same design for a long time.
It still looks the same. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think it actually has been being maintained at all. Maybe like for bug fixes and stuff like that, but not for like the usability and that sort of thing. But I also don't think it should be. I think that the better option would be to kind of merge the two things. But this could be something that happens later. Like, I do agree that you had the point about the overview in GNOME has the combination of all that stuff. And all they have to do is add applications to the new overview that is in Plasma. And then boom, you have the same kind of thing.
Yes. And in workspaces. So
they already have different
workspaces right there at the top.
They already have that. Yeah.
Well, you can add workspaces at the bottom, but not in the dashboard. So when the dashboard comes up, I think right there you should have the ability to add additional workspaces.
Oh, no.
Right
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I'm talking about like take the dashboard and put it to the side. We're not even. No,
okay. Gotcha.
It's over here in its own little world.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the overview system that they added now, which has the workspaces, has the search, has the applications, has everything showing. If they just add an option to display the apps, so you could launch the apps from there, because you can actually just launch the apps from there because the search box is KRunner. So you could just launch it from there, but that does require you to know what you want to launch and to type it out yourself, rather than someone who's new would be able to use an app button that shows you all the different apps, kind of like how GNOME does it and also how macOS does it. They have like a little button that you click to activate that section.
Yeah.
And that would be, in my opinion, what you want pretty simply, because it just add this one other feature to this already fantastic feature that's in Plasma.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think they could definitely improve it. I think they could make the dashboard itself, if they wanted to keep that as a separate option, even better than it currently is. And this is a small complaint because I imagine the amount of people who utilize that alternative menu is probably very small. So I understand why they haven't spent a ton of time on it, and I'm happy with the things they did spend. So ultimately, I want to say to the KDE team, I think it's amazing. It's beautiful, and it made me look at my GNOME desktop, which is a customized version from Zorin. They did a great job making GNOME
that looks
functional
nothing like GNOME.
by having app indicators and stuff by default. But it made me want to try KDE 6 permanently again, but I'd leave it default because it's good enough default.
It is. I mean, the defaults are very good. I mean, there are a couple little defaults I would change, but for the most part, I think that it's 99% just good to go. Give it to somebody, and they're fine. And I think that is the case. There are a few things that I noticed, but Jill, what was your experience?
Oh, so I noticed immediately how fast and polished the UI looked. The things were happening really quickly. Yeah. And I know a lot of that has to do with the move to Wayland. I've noticed here on my system, I have 2 partitions, one with Wayland and one without. And the Wayland system is just far faster. But with Plasma, it just flies. It really does. Everything applications were opening quicker than I could see them. And that's a compliment. So, and boy, one of the applications that opens so fast now is the Dolphin file manager, because he used to be kind of sluggish opening. It always seems a few seconds before that would open. And now it seems like you click on the mouse and it's instantaneous. So
and this is through a virtual machine you were playing with. Right?
Yeah. I was playing with it in GNOME boxes. And the developer that was working on the Dolphin 24.05 file manager said that it's supposed to have faster startup time in the range of 2 to 17%, and it definitely delivers on that. To me, it was the full 17% at least.
Yeah.
So with me, it's funny because I don't even notice how fast Dolphin is because I open it one time and leave it open the entire day.
You use no other desktop environment long enough to ever make the comparison.
Probably. No, I also do that in everything. I no matter whatever, I'm still opening my file manager and leaving it there.
Just leaving it there because you're going to need it.
Because I'm going to have it. I'm going to use it so many times throughout the day. There's no reason to close it again. That's the thing.
Yeah, and one of the other cool things, and I have to point this out, is that the Firefox web browser was extremely zippy, even running on a VM on Plasma. It was probably the fastest experience I had running Firefox on a VM. I'm like, oh, it's already open.
Now, does KDE Neon, because you use KDE Neon for your test, right? Does it utilize snaps?
I don't think it does.
No.
I don't know if it has it installed or not, but I don't think it does. I don't think it uses them. I
think snaps is on their page. They talk about snaps on their pages like a sponsor and all that. So they may utilize it. I don't know.
They might be talking about Canonical as like a sponsor in a sort of way where they're not actually a sponsor, but they're giving respect to them for making Ubuntu or something like that. I just remember
seeing the big Snaps logo when I was downloading KDE Neon in there. And the other distro that I think has Plasma 6 is KOS, right?
KOS.
Yeah.
Yes. I 100% at all times want to call it chaos. It is not chaos.
Yeah, it's not chaos.
It'd be so much cooler as chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I'm looking forward to with Plasma 6 is running it on my Steam Deck, which I use every day. I use it in desktop mode and with a keyboard, mouse, and monitor. So I'm looking forward to
That's a good point. So when the update gets there to SteamOS, then you'll have Plasma 6 there as well. It'll be great.
Okay, so quick correction is that the snap packages is not a sponsor of any kind. It's just them. Basically, KDE makes snaps of all their applications, and it's just a link to go download the snaps.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if snaps was that experience, because that would be pretty cool feather in the cap of snaps if it was a snap, but it turns out it wasn't a snap. So
I mean, we don't know if it was or not. I don't think we checked.
We don't know.
We don't know. We should have checked that.
We should have checked it, but also,
yes, if we had someone who was a fact checker on our show, like we talked about before, it would have been easier to do that.
We need a live fact checker.
This just in, I'm changing topics, but still KDE Plasma, but not related to this particular topic. So let's talk about, you mentioned KDE Neon, and I do think that it's worth talking about Neon specifically because we all tested it with Neon, and it's not really accessible. Plasma 6 is out right now, and you can use it on certain distros, but the distros that are currently are not the ones that you're typically known to be using. Like, it's not on Ubuntu yet, it's not on Fedora yet, it's not on etc. So I think it's cool that Neon exists, but I'm actually torn over it because without Neon, I wouldn't be able to play with Neon, or I wouldn't be able to play with Plasma 6 and, experience it for as much as I have, because they have the betas and the unstable version and the testing version and all that stuff. And you can try it out, and that's cool. And you could be able to try out Plasma 6 for months now using Neon. And that's awesome that it exists. But also, it does other things that is kind of odd. And I mentioned this on a previous episode of Twill, and someone in the comments said something that I think is the greatest way to describe it, because KDE Neon has a frequently asked questions section that specifically answers the question, is it a distro? With the answer of no, it is not a distro. It is a project that they're making that they put on the stack of KDE on top of Ubuntu. So it's technically not considered a distro in their sense. And they even say specifically, we only are focusing on the KDE stack. And that's totally fine. I think that perspective is totally fine. But also you have a user edition that says it's good for everyday use. How can you have a user edition that is for everyday usage, for regular users, and also tell them it's not a distro that should be used because it's for trying out KDE stuff and keeping that?
Probably because so many people have even commented on this show, like not knowing that frequently asked questions exists when we've ever talked about KDE Neon, about the fact that, no, it's perfect. It is a distro. It works perfectly. I use it all the time. It's the only one I use, which is fine. And they probably just gave in and were like, look, let's just create a user edition out there and let people use this. But we're not still responsible if anything breaks. So still having that FAQ is kind of like it's very, I think most people have commented, I've never used it full time, but that is a very stable despite that frequently asked questions as a distro. Now, would I use it in a production environment for like podcasting? No. But, it's still probably pretty stable for your average everyday kind of
the
usage.
Problem is that the issue is that they're not, they specifically say they're focusing on KDE stack. That means they're not paying attention to the underlying core of the system.
Yeah.
So that Ubuntu is paying attention to the underlying core, but there's a disconnect between the underlying core that Ubuntu pays attention to, which is not KDE related, and the KDE stack that they're only paying attention to. And if there's a conflict anywhere in the middle, well, then no one's paying attention to it. And
so you think they should get rid of user edition? I'm
saying that they should either pick one or the other. They should pick
either you're going to be a distro,
be a distro, or don't be a distro and don't have a user edition. Well, because the comment I was talking about earlier, they described it as Schrodinger's distro. And that's fantastic because basically at this point, it's trying to be both at the same time and also neither at the same time. And that doesn't necessarily work. And I just want, it's kind of like, I appreciate Neon existing so that I can test it and I can play with what's coming. But I'm also aware it's for testing and playing with it, not using it as like the production ready daily driver thing. And then they have on their page that they have a version.
Maybe
of that.
on that frequently asked question, because I haven't checked it, are they specifically referencing the user edition as one that's not a distro, or are they
they're talking about the entirety of the project?
Edition? Maybe they just need to clarify, because maybe they mean for the user edition now to be an actual distro, and then the test and developer ones to not be. But they want to clarify,
then that's good. Yeah. But I also feel like they have another one that says, "Is this the KDE distro?" And they say no to that too, because you can put KDE Plasma on all these other distros. And I feel like there's just unnecessary confusion attached to these, like, because the frequently asked question is supposed to provide information to remove confusion. And this is the opposite of that.
Yeah. That's fair.
But also, it's worth noting that if you're using KDE Neon, the experience you use of KDE Neon and KDE Plasma in other distros like Kubuntu or Fedora, it's going to be different because these distros are going to make some changes here and there to, kind of have like an opinion of how Plasma could be done, and they do it in that. So if you use Fedora with KDE Plasma 6, it will probably be somewhat different than the KDE Neon. So just to keep it in mind that sometimes the issues that you might have with Plasma, if you're trying in Neon, could be just Neon specific issues versus Plasma issues, or Fedora specific issues versus Plasma issues.
All right, cut his mic off, Jill. He won't.
Or I could literally just keep talking because I want to.
Literally,
KDE is awesome and Plasma is the best.
Plasma.
Okay,
right,
fine.
So, by the way, just want to fact check this one thing. I did do snap list.
Whoa! We have a fact check.
I am.
Okay.
And I did snap list in the terminal for KDE Neon, and it comes back with there are no snaps installed, and obviously Firefox is here, so this is not Firefox.
Okay. That answers that.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. But it's still very fast, and that's very cool.
Yes.
This episode of Destination Linux is sponsored by LINBIT. LINBIT has been keeping digital businesses running for over 20 years. They're the makers of open source products like DRBD, which is high availability software that has been part of the Linux kernel since 2010, and LINSTOR, industry-leading open source software-defined storage. LINBIT has an active presence in the open source community, and they collaborate with the community to help identify and build new features. LINBIT provides enterprise-grade software that runs on a variety of platforms and OSs without vendor lock-in. What that means is that you could use the software on any platform, including specific hardware that you want to use, or just off-the-shelf hardware that you get and connect it. All of this stuff can be interchanged really easily. And with DRBD and LINSTOR, you can have high-speed replicated block storage in almost any configuration, whether it's Kubernetes, Apache Cloud, or OpenNebula. There's even DRBD proxy for long-distance replication. LINBIT is run by its founders to this day, and all of its engineers and developers are in-house with offices in Europe and North America, which allows them to have global 24/7 support to complement their enterprise offerings. Visit linbit.com to learn more about the people behind LINBIT and the awesome software for block storage, duplication, and more.
Imagine this. Imagine Google and the $1 trillion graphics card company Nvidia teaming up to create something for the open source community.
Okay, until you said for the open source community, I was terrified.
Yeah.
As you know, Bard has now been changed its name to Gemini because it's very important.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. Are you saying that Google disbarred it?
Oh man, the chat joke.
Michael.
Oh, gosh. So if you've used their version of like a Chat GPT, right? This AI thing, it was called Bard before. Now it's Gemini, and I got to give it to them. Changing the name probably made a lot of sense because Bard was like barely okay, but Gemini I've been playing with a lot, and it's really good. Like its AI capabilities.
I mean, the name has nothing to do with whether it's good or not.
No, but I'm saying they wanted to make a different. They wanted to differentiate.
They want to say, "Hey, this is not Bard." Okay.
Yeah, this is not Bard because everyone probably who used Bard would have been like, "Hey, we made updates to Bard." I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." But Gemini is actually really leaps and bounds better than where Bard left off as far as its AI capabilities. But we're not here to talk just about what they're doing with Gemini because Google is announcing Gemma, which is a new open source AI model. And Gemma aims to provide developers with advanced tools to create AI applications conscientiously. And there are two variants. And this is really important. It's very, very powerful, but can be run on laptops and desktops. So you do not have to have, an $80 billion server farm of NVIDIA GPUs that cost $25,000 a piece in order to run this, which is a huge advantage.
Yeah, that's awesome, especially if you could do it locally while you're also doing other things. So if they say you can put it on your laptop or your desktop and that that's all it can do, then it's a little bit different. Still cool. Still something that might be worth doing for some people who have spare computers or whatever. But, I'm curious what the difference is there.
So Google has also introduced the Responsible Generative AI Toolkit. This includes a debugging tool and guideline booklet outlining best practices for AI development. This is very responsible of them to do this. And I think it's really an important part because we've talked about companies and a lot of people doing news articles and things bashing or fear mongering over the potential of AI getting out into open source because it's
uniquely dangerous, Ryan. It's uniquely dangerous.
Uniquely dangerous. So, the fact that they're releasing this with a debugging tool and guidelines that they personally utilize to put guardrails in place for AI, will people use it? No, they don't have to. They get around the guardrails and the stuff where it's locked down in ChatGPT 2. We covered that in a whole other episode, but I think it's cool to include that. So it's less things. If you're getting into AI development, you have to think about. You've got some of the guidelines there that they
and also
utilize.
The fact that they're doing it with Nvidia, because Nvidia has their guardrails too, right?
Exactly.
So, it's good.
And they've made Gemma available on a plethora of platforms, including Collab, Kaggle notebooks. They've got it on Hugging Face, Michael's favorite.
It's the best.
Such a good name.
So good.
Max Text and NVIDIA Nemo and TensorRT LLM.
See, imagine. Like Kaggle, that's kind of fun too, but Hugging Face just wins so far.
Hugging Face is one of the best names of a company out there by far. So Clem, who's a co-founder and CEO of Hugging Face, and I picked him specifically because I know how much you love the name Hugging Face, Michael.
I was like, speaking of Hugging Face.
Said Gemma has set new benchmarks, outperforming all other models in its size and categories. So you're looking at things like Llama and other stuff that it's surpassed. So this is not a weak tool that they've released out there. This is apparently very, very powerful.
It reminds me of the way, also the fact that they named it Gemma and they have Gemini. It reminds me of the Chromium thing. Because like they're very similar, and it's going to confuse people because they're like, "Oh, I'm using Gemma. What, you mean Gemini? No, Gemma." It's like Chrome and Chromium. Like, what are you using? Chrome? Are you using Chromium or Chrome? Anyway, Google is really good at making branding things to a point where they confuse people, and they're also really good at branding things and then rebranding things like 7 times until they finally figure it out.
Yeah.
Except for Gmail. It's always been Gmail.
Yeah.
Yes, that's stayed true.
And Nvidia, the company who found the magic genie in a bottle and became $1 trillion company overnight, they're jumping on board as well with lots of support to optimize Gemma. So they're coming in saying, hey, we're going to make sure across all of our NVIDIA platforms that they're working well with all of our cards, that all of our cards have support with it. And really all of these great things that they're saying that I was just like dreaming of the chance that maybe NVIDIA would say the same thing about Linux one day to provide that kind of level of support. And
actually NVIDIA, even if you don't want to open source, even if you don't, but like care about the support. And then we can maybe talk about open source later, but like care. And also maybe, how you have this really fancy app inside of Windows and your Linux app has not changed in 15 years. I mean, I'm not saying that we want the Windows app because it's a mess, but if you could like just update, maybe like a little, that'd be
just
cool.
A little bit,
like a little
effort,
just a little bit of effort. It would be nice.
But it's cool what you're doing here, and we appreciate it. And pretty cool to see Google participating with the community and helping to support some more, because Google does a lot in open source. So some more open source advancements there. I know from a privacy standpoint, this is a company that we're a little bit like, Google, but Google does a lot in the.
I'm a little torn with Google.
Yeah, they're harder to love than they used to be.
That's true.
But doing things like this makes them.
It's actually a very weird feeling to be like, Google used to be like this, the beacon on the hill.
They were the chosen.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah. And then we're like, they have cool stuff, sure. And then also it's kind of, and then Microsoft used to be this, I will never use your awful stuff ever. And you're the worst. And now it's like, well, I mean, they're actually kind of making some cool stuff. It's weird because we're having this weird pivot of Microsoft becoming good and Google becoming worse. And it's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's NVIDIA join the party and become good, just like how Microsoft is trying.
Yeah.
Just try. And to be clear,
NVIDIA
your hardware
$1 million bills right now, listening to this episode, laughing. They're just literally lighting up $1 million bills.
I understand. I understand why you're saying that, and they're probably are doing that. Yeah. But also, NVIDIA, it does make good hardware, so it's kind of like we want to use your help us help you.
Make it easier for us. Make it easier.
Exactly.
Well, this is huge. This the big announcement, we've honestly been waiting to hear about Google's AI and what they're going to do with it. And the fact that they are partnering with Nvidia makes this announcement even more important, because Nvidia, as Michael said earlier, has championed its guardrails for the AI framework, which we have talked about in the past. And their partnership with Google's AI could make the industry standard and make this industry standard in AI security and gatekeeping a reality. So people out there have been really worried about AI, and maybe this will calm some of those fears. It's
responsible.
They have the money. They have the money to do it.
It's responsible, and I love that they're giving access to the community, because that's one of the big things about Linux is you have a situation where you're closing that digital divide. And if AI taking off the way it is, if nobody's open sourcing, and it's not allowed to be open source, which people want, they literally are out there writing articles and trying to get government laws passed to ban open source AI. What's going to happen is it's only going to be accessible to those who have money, and everyone else will not have access to it. Just like today, there are thousands, tens of thousands. In fact, there's 2 million project, which is to get any type of digital device in the hands of kids in the United States that have no access to anything digital at all. Imagine how far behind anybody who has no access to something digital at all is. And then when you look at AI, you've even got this further barrier. If there's a bunch of kids whose parents have money and they can let them take classes and courses and learn AI, and they go into the workforce versus a bunch of kids who only have access to books in the library, which are awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love the local library and all the books there, but they have no access to the AI and stuff. They're going to be very far behind in comparison. So making this open source and where you can run on a laptop and desktop allows people to be able to utilize this potentially, or bring them into schools and things where these kids would have access to at least play with this, learn it, and understand it, or even bring it into libraries, because now libraries have a lot of computers and stuff, so they could have stations and things set up where people could play with AI. It just opens up a lot of possibilities. This is a big deal, Jill. You mentioned it. It's bigger than just, hey, it's cool, Nvidia and Google are releasing something open source. It's very important what they're releasing.
It'd be very impactful for a lot of people, especially people who don't have easy access to stuff like this. 100%. And I think the library having this kiosks stuff to kind of play with this thing, I think would be a great idea, because a lot of people who don't have access to it could go to these places and get access. And also they could find books about AI there, because, that's possible too. And
books.
It's books.
Why don't they just get stone tablets and etch in them, Michael?
Well, we do have tablets, but they're not stone. So, well, anyway, so AI is actually been something we need to talk about in a future episode. We're going to move on from this because we don't have enough time to spend on this, because we need to go back to KDE Plasma.
No, we're not going back to KDE Plasma.
What?
What's in gaming? Hurry, Jill, please.
But we should go back into AI though, because I have been playing with a lot of AI stuff recently, and Jill introduced me to something new, and we might talk about that in a future episode. So subscribe.
Hit the like button. Punch it in the face.
Punch the like button in the face.
In the face.
If AI has you upset and you don't like the idea of a future with AI, you can play this week's game. So this week on Steam, they are having a cool Steam Dinos versus Robots Fest. And I thought it would be fun to highlight a free game from the festival that I know our viewers would like, and that Michael and Ryan would enjoy playing. Maybe to vent out some energy from when they're in spats together.
We get in spats, Michael?
I don't think so.
We're always get along. I don't know what Jill's talking
Ryan and I are so close. We're like best buds and everything.
Yeah.
So
really best buds.
He's like such a loser, but also like we're really good friends.
Yes. Oh, I know. So the game is called In Case of Emergency, Release Raptor. Raptor dinosaur.
Nice. Such a cool name.
And the developer describes the game like this. It's a passion project that never found its footing, but we thought the very early pieces of the game were very cool. So we wanted you to have it for free. Run around, be a raptor, and kill robots.
Kill the AI. I love it.
Yes, and kill the AI. This is a really fun third-person 3D platformer where the whole point of the game is, yes, just to play as a raptor that kills robots or AI.
We covered in a past episode that Michael LARPs as a dinosaur on the weekends.
We did.
And so it's really cool.
People, Ryan makes up things about me. Just clear.
That one's also not made up.
So the part about we did it on a previous episode, that is not made up.
Yes.
The part that I do it, that is made up. However, I did also LARP on that episode as a raptor.
Yeah.
So
if you want to see what Michael looks like as a dinosaur, hilarious. There is an episode out there where he shows his LARPing ability. It was impressive. It was scary. I thought it was a real raptor.
Yeah, he did a really good job, Michael.
Okay.
And it was just as good as the movements of this raptor in the game. They're actually better than those some of the other more polished dinosaur games on Steam from big game companies that I have played. I mean, I was really impressed. You can swipe with its claw, you can lunge, you can you can jump. It was pretty impressive. All the different tools you had at your
You'd be cool to be a raptor. Everything's a weapon. Your mouth, your claws, your jumping's a weapon. Your tail.
Yeah.
Man.
And the rendering of the maps is actually really nicely done, and the sound effects and music is on point. I'm sad that the developer wasn't able to make it a full big game. So
did they open source it?
No.
They should open source it and allow the community to finish it, because this game is good enough to finish just by the name itself. In case of emergency, release Raptor.
Yeah. And so go take in case of emergency, release Raptor for a destructive yet fun gallop in corridors. After all, it is free on Steam and supports our Linux penguins out of the box.
Nice. That's a pretty cool idea. And I want to have, it looks like a fun game. But let's move on to the next segment where we're going to talk about KDE Plasma.
Michael, no, it's Software Spotlight. And
well, it's Software Spotlight, so it would work in this category.
Yeah, it will work for Plasma 6. Tell them about what will work for Plasma 6, Jill.
So our Software Spotlight this week actually comes from the community. Jason sent us these awesome suggestions. And he says, I have found some incredible software for Linux, including System Monitoring Center, a complete set of monitoring utilities in one for the CPU, memory, disk, network, GPU, and sensors. There are even features to manage processes and services. You can also view user and system information. And it may not be active anymore, but worth a try. And I did check. Yeah, the last release was October 2023, sadly. But Jason,
it's not super old.
Yeah, it's not that old, but they're not continuing the project. So I'm hoping someone might fork it.
Yeah, you never know.
But yeah, Jason, I use that personally myself. I've been using it for a while and I love it. It's beautiful. And thank you for writing for writing in with your suggestion. And one thing I have to say about it, there's lots of system monitoring tools, but this one is the GUI is fabulous. It's really beautiful, and it has a dial, and it's just very,
makes you feel like a little bit of a hacker when you're looking at your system resources.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's important. That's important. You gotta have the good
UX
GUI
is
stuff.
Great. And also, Jason recommended R-Linux, a complete data recovery with the ability to scan, recover, backup, and image important data with many features.
Nice.
Cool. I had never used that one. So thank you so much, Jason, for letting us know and our awesome community.
Yeah, Jason, write us back and let us know what color Crocs you prefer. That would be an interesting addition to that note there.
Perfect.
All right, Michael, take us into the tip of the week this week.
So the tip of the week is actually from Reddit. I saw a really interesting thread where someone put in a screenshot or a photo of what happened to their computer when it was booting.
A screenshot? Wow. Michael, that's amazing.
I'm not done yet with the tip. Right.
Okay.
Screenshots
were the tip.
Take a screenshot of errors in case you want to get help. End of tip of the week. Actually, that's not a bad tip, but it's also not what I was trying to do.
That's next week's tip now.
That's next week's, yeah. The photo was showing an error with their booting system, and a lot of these times these errors are not helpful in terms of like what is the person who's reading it knows what it is, because it's very specific, and I have my esoteric things related to it, but it's also potentially useful for showing it to someone else. And in this case, that's exactly what they did. They went on Reddit. I'm not saying go to Reddit for do it. I'm saying what the error was. So the error they were seeing was like a USB device not being detected properly, or it might not be working correctly. And this is not the tip, because I've had this myself, and there's many ways you could try to kind of like troubleshoot this and figure it out. But one of the comments by Lana Vishnu was very good, and it made me want to tell people about this, because they say that to save you booting repeatedly, which has happened to me in the past, disconnect all of your non-keyboard and mouse USB devices, open 2 terminals, and then put in this on one of them, which is a long message that's tail-f varlog dmessage. I'll have the whole thing actually in the show notes. And then plug in a USB device. Then look for errors as you plug things in. In the other terminal, type LSUSB after each device is plugged in and see what the new device is. Plug in more USB devices until you get to the error, and then you can address it once you look at it and see what it in the USB list. You can get more information about it. And then you could go to Google or DuckDuckGo and actually find what the issue is and if there's a way to fix it and that sort of stuff. This was such a good tip that I wanted to share it with you, because the idea of having those 2 terminals things and putting those in, I didn't think about that at all before. And now if I ever need to, I'm definitely going to be using this.
Imagine how much time it takes to sit there and reboot, like unplug our USB devices, plug one in, reboot,
exactly.
Then reboot again and plug in your next device. I mean, Linux boots very fast. That's an advantage, but that's still slow as sin. Way awesome suggestion there. That's a good tip. Way better than the screenshot tip you gave earlier.
That wasn't the tip. It was.
But guess what? I've got great and exciting news. We're going to scale, people.
No way.
Yes. And we're going to live stream from Scale. You really look like you were shocked by that news there. That was such a good no way impression.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, that was Oscar worthy there. We're going to be at Scale 2024, scheduled for March 14th through the 17th at the Pasadena Convention Center in
Pasadena, California.
It works out that way. This is where you can meet the entire DL crew, plus all the amazing vendors, presenters, and open source enthusiasts that are there every year. And this is how cool Scale is. They gave us a code to give to you for 50% off your Scale Pass, which is a freaking big deal. So if you type Tux in your registration, you're going to get 50% off of your pass. And that's
just for being really awesome and being in this community.
For listening to this show.
Coupon code TUX. We have so much stuff to do this, like just in this next couple of months. And in this case, we're Scale next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm also, as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to have to go buy some stuff to give away, because I haven't done that yet, Ryan. So I'm going to do that right after, because, that's
what
how
we're going to give
works.
away, right? We're not going to tell people here, but it's a computer.
Yeah.
Little mini computer.
Special.
We did not talk about that at all.
We did, didn't we, Jill?
Last week.
And it's this little computer right over here, this Raspberry Pi 5.
Oh, we did talk about that. So okay, for people who are watching, you didn't hear that. We weren't going to talk about
Yeah, we're not telling you what we're giving away, but it's a Raspberry Pi.
So just Raspberry Pi 5, by the way.
If you come by our booth, but you're not getting one of those, because we're telling you what we're giving away. But
we're not doing that. No, we're not. So just okay, imagine that we're giving a giveaway that you don't know what it is. That's the excitement, the suspense, the tension. And then you come by our booth, then you get signed up for the raffle or whatever, and then you maybe get whatever. You don't know what it is.
You have to sign our EULA, though, which says you have to talk to Michael and me before you talk to Jill.
That is our EULA. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is our EULA.
All right.
100%.
Big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. You know where you can come hang out with everyone who also loves this show, has so much in common, loves Linux and open source and all these other geek culture things out there as well. Michael, do you know where you could go to hang out with all those cool people?
I think I have an idea. I think you're talking about the Tux Digital Discord server.
Yeah. And if you want to get to it, you go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. Isn't that gnarly, dude?
that's crazy. Like, I can't believe that's where you go to get the Discord servers. You go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. Awesome.
So
okay.
amazing.
So when you go to that server, you will also see there's tons of different things to talk about. There's music, there's gaming, there's of course Linux,
working out,
lots of Linux, and also working out. Whatever, who does that? But more importantly, there's also, not necessarily more importantly, but if you are a patron, there is a special section just for you.
Whatever, Michael, they are more important.
I wanted to pretend, Ryan.
If you're paying money to help support this show, let me make it clear. You are more important than those who don't. Like, I know it's supposed to be the company line where you're like, everyone's equal. No, you're not. Patrons than the rest of you. All right? Let's just be honest.
We appreciate you watching, listening, comment, liking, all of that.
Patrons are better.
But I mean, it's hard to argue that the patrons pay for it and make the show possible.
If I have room,
it's hard to argue with Ryan here.
At the end of the end of the world's coming, and I have just a couple seats in my vault left to let a couple other families survive. I'm going to pick the patrons to come in my vault. The rest of you, you're out of luck. Sorry, you should have paid. So just put that out there.
All right, so you can join the Discord server and go to the patron-only section by becoming a patron. Go to tuxdigital.com/membership to become a patron and get access to that patron-only section of our Discord server. And you can also join us when we record the show, because we record it live for our patrons. And as a special extra bonus, you can join us in the patron-only post show that happens every week after the show when we're done recording it. You can get all of this and more, tuxdigital.com/membership to sign up. Also, if you want to help the show out in another way, you can get some cool swag. Go to tuxdigital.com/store and pick up some hats, mugs, hoodies, t-shirts, stickers, coasters, all sorts of cool stuff at tuxdigital.com/store.
And everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our incredible shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce. Make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of shows to fill your entire week with geeky goodness. Check out This Week in Linux with our very own Michael Tennell for your source for Linux Weekly GNUs, which is a weekly video podcast that Michael hosts that takes you through all the happenings of Linux and open source each and every week.
Thank you very much. It's the best podcast outside of this podcast you could possibly listen to. Yeah. Not biased in any way whatsoever.
And everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our great shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
Everybody, have a great week. And remember that KDE Plasma 6 just released, people, and you need to check it out.
Yes.
And also, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Check out XFCE, everyone.
I mean, that's good too. But Plasma, come on. It's Plasma, bro.
Yeah. Check out Arch. Arch is good. You can get,
it has nothing to do with DE.
You can get Plasma 6 in Arch. Probably right
not
now.
Yet. It's probably going to happen, but I don't think it's right now.
Well, I'm going to lie about it because it's Arch. So,
well, I'm going to fact check you right now to make sure that you are wrong.
Me. Who made you fact checker?
Well, you fact checked earlier, so if you can do it, why can't I do it? So I don't see why I can't do it.
Don't you use the internet for its purpose?
For its purpose? I have checked, and currently, it is not available. It is in testing right now. So boom.
Come on, Arch. Come on, Arch. Get your crap together.
Get your crap with a K together, people.
Who knows? It might make it first to OpenSUSE.
Yeah, that's happened before.
Let's fact check that statement.
OpenSUSE has gotten things faster than Arch in the past.
That's true. And
then I got to listen to Nate talk about it all the time. So please, please not have it. I don't have to hear Nate.
The fact checking is not as easy to do in OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, so I can't do it as fast. So I'm just going to skip it.
Okay. We'll just assume it's not there.
Okay.
For right now. All right. See y'all next week. Bye, everyone.
See you next week.
Bye, everyone.